It's not your head voice. You see, falsetto is a term that is unfortunately too often misused. It's referred to, it's a term that's used by students and coaches, unfortunately, sometimes to describe what people really intend to mean head voice. So falsetto does not mean head voice. Falsetto is not the upper register where high notes happen. That we will call the head voice. Falsetto really is something that's a little bit more physical. There's like real science behind it. Partly inspired by, I think initially inspired by Joe Steele with the Estelians, who sort of got into the physical mode pedagogy and continued on with CVI and TVS, the work that we do at TVS. Essentially, falsetto is a physical mode. It's one of 9 in TVS, one of 9 different physical configurations that the larynx and the glottis and the vocal folds and all of that can configure themselves into to produce a very specific vocalization type, sound color, and physical configuration. I hope that makes sense. It's just a physical setup of the larynx and the mechanism. There's 9 of them, and one of them happens to be falsetto. Okay? But head voice is really more the picture word. It's more of a metaphor for where high vocalizations happen above the passaggio. Now, why is it important to not refer to falsetto, or not to refer head voice as falsetto? Why is that important to not get confused about this? The reason it's important is because if students think that falsetto means head voice, then the subconscious presumption becomes that falsetto is the only thing you can do in head voice. Does that make sense? So if you think that falsetto is the place, is the higher register, which it's not, it's a physical mode, then you'll just draw the conclusion that that's the only thing you can do in the head voice. But when you understand that falsetto is just one of 9 different physical configurations that the larynx can put itself into through training and practice, then there's an aha moment that happens, and students begin to realize, oh, I get it. So in my head voice, I can vocalize falsetto, or I could vocalize twang, or I could vocalize belt, or I could vocalize cry mode, or I could vocalize sob, opera, and other physical modes. So to understand and be clear on the fact that falsetto does not mean head voice, the head voice is the place, it's the metaphor for the place where high notes happen, and that falsetto is really more of a physical configuration that's been studied on the larynx and glottis and mechanism. To have clarity on that is to take your first important steps towards understanding physical modes, or we might say Estelian modes. That's it. That's the story. That's why it's important. Okay, I gotta get to the airport now.